local system, you could now expand. You know, there are a lot of things you can do. I'm just saying that from the perspective of where I come from in America. But when you talk about, basically, it was like all or nothing here in Ghana. Understanding that, you know, what you need to have a cash system, and don't count on that credit card working, you know, being in this Ghanaian system. It's like you understood it and mastered it, and you were determined to do it because you had the confidence to own who you are, and to say, I'm going to make it work in a place. Because I see and I hear so many people, our young people, it's almost kind of like the white saviors thing. I got to get to America because that's what, you know, that's where the development, they say development, but that's European development. That's white development. When there's development in many of the different villages and the cultural constructs that are here in Ghana. So it's like, dismiss what you have, come for what we have.
Because they've been conditioned to don't trust themselves, don't respect what they have, don't appreciate what they have. You know, it's training.
Yeah, we do it.
So once we stress that off, okay, the other thing you have to ask yourself is that what are you going to do to change something that you don't like here? It should be beyond that. I just want food. What do I have to do something? That's the mindset that we use to build business.
You had mentioned, I did an interview with a gentleman. He was selling
on the street.
On the street,
yes,
here in Accra. And you mentioned how that resonated with you from the standpoint of him not being able to see what he actually had.
Yeah.
Touch on that a little bit.
Because he said that he was selling on the street and was able to take care of his family.
Yes.
And sent one of his brothers to school, university.
Yes.
And he still didn't have value for that. And he probably will ask you to take him to America.
A lot of people would break their neck if they had a slave ship.
That is something that we don't see. We don't see the worth we have as Africans.
So he didn't see the value in his being able to provide and send someone to school as being valuable, but he saw it as being.
He didn't do that with it.
Right.
He worked on the street.
And how many?
Did not even value that. But that's how any business starts.
Yeah.
You start with anything.
Yeah.
And if you get enough knowledge, you'll be able to build on it. But the same person, when you're telling him that this is something magical that you're doing, they say that you don't know what you're talking about. If I get to America, life is very easy. If I get to England, life is very easy.
And we're sitting there looking at
that.
Right.
It's the movie. You know, how people believe. And it's part of it is, I mean, almost everything that you have as an African has been demonized.
Yes.
So we really have to also understand how our people see themselves. And it takes a while for us to lift ourselves up.
But you know, when I was in Tanzania last week, I had an interesting conversation with some gentlemen, and they talked about what they saw on television and how they saw Black Americans as being angry, cussing, fighting, you know, just very violent people.
Yeah.
And so, and even when we were out in the, we were out of the local area, and a gentleman, he saw me, and I guess he recognized that I might be from America or something like that. And so he just came walking by, cussing and everything, MF, this, that, and the other, and just kind of walking through. And what I explained to them, I said, what they tell us about you is that you all are corrupt, sick, you know, scammers, disease, ignorant. And I said, and then what they tell you about us is that the same thing, but just in a different way. And I said, who controls the media? Who's controlling the entertainment? Who's funding this stuff to fund these narratives? I was watching an interview, and I'm gonna do a talk about this, about Smokey Robinson. And he's a legendary singer, songwriter, one of the best songwriters in the history of R&B music in America. But he's been on this rant about how he's not African and he never wants to visit Africa, and he's, you know, he can't understand why people are doing it. I mean, I'm gonna do a full breakdown video on what Smokey's smoking. And so, but you have all of these people in America who feel this way based upon what they've seen.
That's right.
He has not come to see for himself.
But he's making a judgment on it.
But I mean, a full-throated, passionate, angry judgment about a land he's never been to. And proud to say, I've never been there and I won't go there. And so that tells you, I said, how serious can someone take a person like that? Because if you feel so strongly,
go and see it.
Go see it. But then if somebody said that about him, I don't even want to know that Black American singer who, you know, who's singing all these songs and all these years. I don't want to know anything about him because, you know, clearly the white man got him or something like that. You know, he would be like saying, well, no, you don't even know me. You don't know my music. How can you form that judgment about me?
know me,
You don't, but you have formed a
Isn't it
judgment.
the same thing as the young man here who thinks that he's never been to America, he's never been to any of these places, but he still thinks that it's heaven.
He's laying in bed
he is in
tonight.
hell.
Right, exactly. Without being able to see the heaven. Without even being able to see, do you see all of us coming over here?
That's right.
Do you see all of us breaking down
When you come.
when we come?
So that if there is nothing here,
Then why would we even want to come back? Why would we even see the value in this place if there's nothing here? That's what clicked for me. I felt so robbed when I set foot here for the first time in 2018. I said, someone has played with my mind my entire life. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking, I said, you can grow anything here year round. There's no food shortages. I'm saying, well, what were they telling me? Okay, I can deal with some dirt roads. And I said, but we have dirt roads in the back roads of Mississippi and Tennessee and South Carolina. I was looking at this and I said, I will never allow someone to think for me again. And that's when this whole movement started. And that's what as we're talking, and you have that movement in you. Yeah. That's what I see. So for your culture and your people, they'll listen to you more so than they'll listen to me, because I'm the outsider coming in. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm
if you talk about religion, people fight you.
Yeah, okay.
If you talk about the fact that they have something and they should look again, and that not everywhere as they see it. It's not movie. Movie is script, you know?
Yeah, it's a script. It's a script.
But they will fight you that. If you talk against the colonizer, they will fight you.
Really?
Yes. It's conditioning.
Well, I mean, I do know that, because when I was in Kenya, and I was really kind of surprised and saddened at the same time. There were so many people who defended the British and told me to go home. Yeah. They told me to go home, but would welcome.
Sure.
They were like, "You go back," and I'm like, "Y'all don't see what's happening here. You don't understand."
But when they will agree with you is when you say that leaders are corrupt.
That'll be the. But
Africa is not developed.
Yes.
So I agree with you. Our head system.
Or argue with each other about who's more developed under the European system. That's we are the best, here because we have all of this development. And they'll start running down all these statistics, talking about how good they are. And I'm like, you're still an agent of white supremacy, because you're now propping up their standard while putting down. I heard people in other countries, that Ghana, they're not as developed as we are because of this, that, and the other. And I'm saying, listen to yourself.
Do you even have to?
Dude, listen to what you're saying out of your mouth.
You're not the same people.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you're putting down these artificial borders, and you're lifting up your imperial system over another imperial system, and everybody's dealing with the same thing. And I'm telling you, would argue when I was down in South Africa, and I went to an informal development. Some people call them shanty towns. They're basically areas that the West would call impoverished, and people with a Western mentality. So I'll put that together. So the West and a Western mentality. I took my camera as an invitation by the community. And I said, tell your story. I said, because you've had the Europeans exploit these places for money to try to raise money and paint a picture of Africa as one-sided. So I said to myself, well, let's let them tell their story. So I went and let the camera roll. And do you know that there were people who were upset because I went into this community and allowed these people to tell their story. And they came on that page and they were so angry. And why did you go there? Why did you go there? And I'm saying to myself, well, so what was I supposed to do? Tell the people I couldn't go there because they were poor according to Western standards? So
don't want others to see that.
The twisting of the mind was so sad. I was saddened by it. It was sad. It was so sad, because they couldn't even see the wealth that the people had within that community. To your point about what that gentleman saw. So there were so many people who were trying to now lift themselves up according to white standards without even being able to see the mind game. So to your point about identity, so they're like, why don't you show this side of us? Why don't you show this? I was like, well, if you looked at all the videos I did, I done gave all the white development, all the props that I could give it. I said, but what about, they don't have a voice too? And they would never answer that question. And then other people were like, well, I understand because we want the world to see us. Why are we concerned about how the world sees us? How do we see ourselves?
Right.
And if you see yourself as strong, no matter where you live, you're going to be proud. You're going to say, well, if I'm living in this informal development, I'm proud about what we have. It's clean. It's Go ahead.
Exactly. See, there are a lot of guys, young people living in Accra in kiosks,
Okay.
boxes.
Okay.
And a lot of them would have lands,
Hmm.
hectares in their village,
Okay.
but they want to come to Accra and sell in the street. Why?
You tell
They
me.
think
Okay.
that the land that they have,
It's
they can
worthless.
do something on it. It's not. Now
Wow.
tell me, if a family has, let's say, 100-acre land, would you say that family is poor?
No.
The World Bank and all those guys will come here and say that the Africans live on $1 a day. How much is working?
Ah.
You see that?
Yeah.
So it's the judgment to what you're saying. It's the judgment. It's how we are trying to use one particular people as the standard. It's like saying that, oh, the world's billionaire list, if you look at it, but if somebody has a house which is 200,000 cedis here, what do you want to convert it to dollar? Do we spend dollar here?
Right.
Is
right.
the dollar our standard? In America, do you spend cedi?
No.
Or again,
Can't even
in
get them
America,
to
we
yeah.
say that I make $5,000 here. And if I compare it to Ghana, it's like the minister's pay. No, but you don't spend cedi there. So don't convert it.
Right.
You spend dollars, so
Yeah.
use it dollar. How much and what does that 5,000 buy in America? How's your worth there?
Yeah.
Stop comparing that, because here, really, remove the sign before it because it has the same value.
So, and when you, I mean, these are conversations that a lot of people don't have because they are in survival mode. And in them being in survival mode, they're trying to live each day. So to have a video like this for someone to be able to say, hey, check this out real quick and really understand how deep this thing goes. All right. We've talked about the problems. One thing I do want to touch on before we move to some of the solutions again, and we have touched on some solutions. When I was having a conversation in Tanzania with the gentleman about the cussing Black Americans and everything, I told him, I said, that's one side of the story. I said, that side is true. We do have that side in some parts of our culture. But then there's another side they don't show. All of the families that are thriving, all of the people who are breaking these mental constructs. Oh yeah, they're growing, developing, building, millionaires, billionaires, and they don't put that on the movies. And so that's part, for me, what I try to do with this channel is to share a different narrative. And the same thing is happening in Ghana and in South Africa and in Kenya and in Tanzania, that you have people, families who are building businesses like what you're doing.
Yeah. We build apartments and rent them.
You do that for yourself or you do that for others?
We just build it for ourselves.
For yourselves?
Yes.
So you've learned residual, obviously that's...
Yes. So we have a lot of units that we have rented. Some in Kumasi, some in Accra.
Really?
Yes, and we built them, not with bank loan.
Without loans. See why he said that real fast. He said that real, because you know.
No, ourselves. Why? I'm saying that because a lot of our young people who live outside the country don't see the positive in our country.
That you could take advantage of all of this development.
But it's the mental state. You really have to come to a state of thinking. You cannot become it until you think like that.
Yeah.
You have to get there. But if you think that you are nothing, then you will never be able to build it.
You need to, this is what I hope to see for you. That you mentor people. Yes, absolutely.
We have a radio program that we've been doing for the last 2 years on Peace FM.
Okay.
We have put out a lot of content, and it's people. It's like you see the dry sponge put in water.
Just how's the response been?
It's massive.
Have you ever done a live event?
A live event
where people come and hear you speak?
Some few churches that I've been to, but a lot of the times I tell them go to the YouTube channel.
Okay.
And some of them will send you a message. It's massive, both within and without. Both.
I was gonna say this is not just Ghana. This is Africa wide.
I have gentlemen, old men, who call me and say that, listen, everybody around me will tell me don't go to Ghana. It's not good. But when I listen to you guys, I say no, let me go.
Yeah.
And they are building. We have talked about racial development, personal development, the essence of you learning as an African, financial knowledge, because these are things that they should have put in our school.
But you are one of the ones who will be the trailblazer. Go ahead.
So we've dealt with critical thinking, systems thinking, things like that. So we come to a stage, you say that, listen, I have a media company. I'll be able to build it. Why should I leave this and go and do something else somewhere where they don't even have any respect for me? So, and the hopelessness, you have to deal with the hopelessness. Say that in our economy, we don't have a lot of factories. So when you come out of the university, very few of you will get a job. The rest is go and start something and be proud of it. It will work eventually, and it blows up too. And you'll be worth more than if you have ever worked for, somebody. And the beginning is tough. Nobody's saying it's not tough. But then the more importantly is the thought processes that you build. And that's what we have used. And so if somebody talks about anything, you really don't listen to them.
Right.
And we are not waiting for God to do it for us. No, not at all.
You're not sitting in the back corner.
The difference is this.
He created you, so if you've been created, you're right. Right.
There are a lot of people who don't believe in God who are running the world.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
And they are telling us that God will do it. And how come those guys were able to do it?
Right.
So it's not God doing it, it's us.
Yeah.
But somebody would have to tell us those stories to make us believe.
And to make us passive.
It is God.
And that makes us passive.
That's right. So the poverty will continue so long as you wait for God.
One thing I've noticed is that wherever I see extreme poverty, I see extreme religion. And with that being the case, it speaks volumes to me. I would have never thought that, but it's the same way really in America too. Unless you're dealing with, I don't even want to say a prosperity type situation, a prosperity religion, because even there you still see the poverty too. You'll have a few people, right? Because you can get a few people to get a little bit of something, but then the majority are still dealing with the perception of lack of economic resources. I say that because, to your point about the people who don't, you have atheists, agnostics, whatever, they run the world. They have more money than the wealthiest pastor or whatever, rabbi, more money than all of them, but they run the world. But yet everyone in many of those places, and I guess it kind of goes to the point of when you see the missionaries come in. Now when I see a missionary, the thoughts that I have are like it's like, how you still got your hood thoughts. You got your hood thoughts. I'll say it in the clean version. I'll say it in the clean, get out of here. I'll leave out the other words that I'll be thinking at the same time. But I don't even, then I saw the Black Mormons. And the Black Mormon situation is about the most off-the-wall thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, now how does a black person become a Mormon of all things? A Mormon, y'all, a Mormon. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But I see this stuff, and I say to myself, the toxic religion has done such a job on us. And I shared in another video, I spent so many years in that world. And I feel like the only thing I'm ashamed of in my life, I've made a lot of mistakes and done some off-the-wall things that most people would be ashamed of. The only thing I'm ashamed of is how many years I spent in the religious system leading people down a road. I was like,
because the seed that they planted, I mean, some people want to separate. They say that there were merchants and there were priests and from the Europeans. I say they're all the same.
They're all the same.
They came the same ship,
They all came the same goal.
Different. How come their gospel could not change the merchants?
Right.
And the enslavers?
Right.
So it's the same thing. They work from different angles.
Yeah.
Some would have to come and claim us and make us believe. You see, one thing that puts a lot of fear in the African is what happens after life.
Yeah.
And that a lot of people will put up with pain just because of wanting to go to heaven. And that's why the religion continues to maltreat our people. And it's obvious. If it's absent of love, kindness, compassion, truth, then you are not teaching the gospel.
Yes.
As there. So these people could not have brought the so-called gospel.
No, they couldn't have brought, couldn't have.
So the same bad seed has germinated into a lot of, big trees that we find it difficult.
Well, did you see the video with the elderly lady in Africa? It was right after Easter resurrection time, and and it wasn't just her; it were other people that had the little fake Jesus, white Jesus thing laying down, and they were rubbing and crying over, "Oh Jesus, oh Jesus."
We still do it here.
But I saw it in Egypt. I saw it.